We are about to see a death toll in Maui that is going to astonish the world. I believe it. I believe it. And I believe that the death tolls in these subsequent disasters are going to be unprecedented because I think that the fourth seal opened up this summer. I think the fourth seal opened up about a month ago. Literally. I mean, I think so. And it is where the Bible says death and hell has power over one fourth of the earth. Now, there's always going to be a beginning to things, and there's always going to be there's always going to be opening ceremonies, but it's going to continue. So you got sword, second seal. That's going to be a lot of war. That's going to be a lot of the second seal magnified and turned on its ear. So whatever war and hatred you see people just like this guy just yesterday, kid walking on the street with his family down south in Tennessee, I believe, and got killed because some a driver didn't see them walking in the street. They were actually walking home because their car ran out of gas. You know, common thing. They didn't have enough gas to get home because the third seal doing what it's doing. Hit the 17-year-old, killed him. He pulls over to offer resuscitation and help. He's a government guy, and the father kills him out of his heartbreak. He kills the guy who killed his son. There's so many these red light runners that's just running red lights, taking people's lives. This is the beginning. Yeah, it got tied to the second seal and love waxing cold and hatred coming on the earth. But remember, they're going to intensify. So those going ons is going to continue to happen. In the fourth seal turned on its ear. You better pray. Every time, I don't even like leaving my house no more. I don't like driving in the city no more. And I don't do it unless I have to. And every time I leave from here, I said, Lord, let me come back in peace and in one piece. And when I come back to my house, I thank him for letting me come back in peace and in one piece and finding my house in peace and in one piece. Because guess what? It's nothing is guaranteed. And none of our finances can cover it. None of our resources are able. Having the government want first seal deception still going on. The very stories that's coming out of Maui about all the supplies that they're bringing and they're flooding Maui with all this support and these resources, and they're showing it. They're showing it how these people, that's what social media, I'm so glad for social media because the truth is coming out. Even if it come out for that one stream, it's still coming out. That these people aren't, this FEMA operating under the color of what? You know, they're doing what their agenda is deeming them to do. The other thing that came out about Maui is that just at the top of this year, at the World Economic Forum in Davos, that they were talking about redeveloping Maui, but the people in Maui was opposing them. That's just suspect all by itself. Them people over there is devastated. They're finding people huddled together in their home around each other, burnt up, in cars, huddled, burnt up. And what came to me is some of them people have never hugged each other except for in their death. This is real and this is coming on this earth. And this is part of the fourth seal. Death on a when that one girl, she was driving in the car and she said, not like this. Not like this. It was literal hell all around them. And guess what? And they had the means to videotape it, to show it to the world, to let it be known that this is the apocalypse is happening on an island surrounded by water. What does that sound like? That sounds like Elijah when he called down water, when he called down fire on the altar in front of all those other gods, in front of all those false prophets. And he said, let the God who be God answer by fire. I don't think that Maui was on in judgment. Who knows? One of the reports that came out of Maui was they were putting out fires that Monday. And they actually went home because they were done. But then later on, I heard that the water ran out for the firemen. I said, how you on the ocean and the water run out? What does salt water do to fires? Does it exacerbate it? I don't know. Lake Michigan is the largest freshwater source in the world. That's all I know. But you live on an island surrounded by water. People, as they were jumping in the water, they were catching on fire. Boats 50 yards out were catching on fire. What kind of flame do that? Hell, now let's talk about the convergence. Just so happens that a hurricane that never hit the island is blowing off the west side of Maui, creating 75-mile-per-hour winds. And the fire itself was going across houses in less than 4 minutes, consuming it and the people. It took down the power lines first. There was no means to communicate them because this thing happened in a very specific, terrifying order. First, the winds came. When the winds came, it kicked out the power communications. The communication infrastructure got knocked out. After the communication infrastructure got knocked out, whatever was the spark that was blowing in the wind took over. I don't care what no one say. People's over there, we should have had warning. Absolutely, you should have had warning. But for some reason, those set of circumstances refused and dictated that y'all not only was not getting a warning, there wasn't nothing that anybody could do if y'all got a warning. Them people would have, look, the warning would have probably came and the flames would probably been at their door. And see, people saying, "Oh, that's judgment on Maui." Well, it might have just been the opening ceremonies of the fourth seal. Part of that entire thing is coming on the earth. And for them to go on and say, we've only, as of Friday, we've only searched 3% of the burn zone. And in that 3% of the burn zone, we found 89 bodies. This is when the count was at 89. He said, you do the math. They said over 1,000 people are missing. Can you imagine if 1,100 people died in that fire? Probably so. Probably have. Probably more. 150,000 died in the top of the year in the Syria earthquake. The death on unprecedented levels. 2 billion people. The Bible says very clear when the fourth seal opens, death is entering in this earth and hell is going to follow with it. And if hell is following with it, you better expect some flames and some hotness. These are the hottest days. Climate change? Maybe, just maybe, it's the fourth seal. Hunger was going to be the next thing. This is the third seal continuing. So now you're going to have, look, and if you broke up 2 billion people into these four things, that means 500 million people approximately each are going to die from one of these things. So 500 million people are going to die from war and things like that. 500 million people going to die from hunger and all of that. 500 million people going to die from death, pestilence, illness, natural disaster. 500 million people. This is what you want to watch and how you want to know that this is really God, because this is crazy. 500 million people dying from beasts of the earth. Now, the other thing that he gave me is not only that it may be animal attacks, but what about the food that we consume? And one of the biggest food sources we have are beasts of the earth. Deer meat, bison meat, chicken, beef, all of that stuff. And people, that's just the stuff that oink, moo, and cluck. And they eat the stuff that do more than that. This is how death and hell is going to have their power on earth. This is the fourth seal. The fourth seal culminating and bringing together all the seals. These are the beginning of sorrow.